Well, welcome everyone to the Building to Net Zero Cohort Information Q&A webinar. We are delighted to have you all here today and really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We're hoping through this session we can provide you with detailed information about the BNZ cohort and the application process and answer any questions you may have. So before we get started, I wanted to mention that this webinar will be recorded and will be made available on ICLEI Canada's Building to Net Zero page. So my name is Susan, Climate Change Coordinator with ICLEI Canada, and I'm joined today by Adler Gross, Senior Climate Change Coordinator, who you'll be hearing on from as well later in the session. All right, so we wanted to begin today's session by recognizing that ICLEI Canada's work happens across Turtle Island, which has traditionally been and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people since time immemorial. We recognize that reconciliation is a fundamental component of building to net zero communities, and we are committed to strengthening relationships with Indigenous groups and knowledge keepers, knowing that reconciliation is an ongoing learning, unlearning, reflection, and action. We endeavor to listen and learn from Indigenous people on an ongoing process on the basis of our work. And I will say that I don't believe I'm sharing my screen, so I'm going to get started on that right away. Sorry about that, everyone. All right, so relatedly, we did also want to take this time to highlight some relevant and important Indigenous-led report and associated webinar that's actually taking place tomorrow afternoon. So we can share those links into the chat. So among other things, the For Our Future Indigenous Resilience Report highlights that Indigenous peoples have unique strengths for responding to environmental changes, and that Indigenous knowledge systems and lived experiences are essential components of climate action. So we encourage you to read the full report and tune in the webinar tomorrow if you're available at that time. Before getting started, we did also want to tell you a little bit about ICLEI Canada. So ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, is a global network of more than 2,500 local and regional governments committed to sustainable urban development. So we're active in over 125 countries, and we influence sustainability policy and drive local action for low emission, nature-based, equitable, resilient, and circular development. So ICLEI Canada in particular works with a wide variety of community partners, including over 400 local governments, as well as industry, academia, and the NGO community. So among other things, we support communities as they reduce their emissions and move towards a low carbon future. So for the agenda today, first you'll be hearing a little bit more from me as I discuss some background context related to the motivations for this particular project. And I'll provide an overview of the full project, including both related to the BNZ cohort and the BNZ community of practice. Then Adler will step in to provide some further details about the BNZ cohort specifically, and that will include benefits, deliverables, and the kind of guidance that cohort members can expect throughout the project. Adler will then also run through the application process as well. Lastly, we'll be happy to take any questions you have. I should mention as well, there's no need to wait until the end if you do have questions. As you're listening to us talk, please feel free to add any questions into the Q&A box that you'll find below on your screen. All right, so jumping on in. So first, I'd like to just detail some background context for the project, which underscores really the motivations of our work, and then I'll provide an overview of the full project. So first, the BNZ project is really rooted in an understanding that Canada's building sector plays a key role in both climate action and the well-being of our communities. So we know that the building sector is not only responsible for a sizable chunk of emissions in Canada currently, but given expected growth of the sector in the coming years, these emissions will increase considerably if we continue with current practices. Secondly, sustainable buildings are really inseparable from important issues such as health, energy poverty, and affordability, and building sector employment as well. So this is a crucial action area for governments to take action on. So we know that local governments across Canada, as they navigate this challenge, they're also acting within the context of evolving and uncertain regulatory and jurisdictional realities. So at the federal level, the national model codes provide a template for provinces and territories, and we know that updates are currently under development, as well as other high performance and building energy codes. At the provincial level, provinces have agreed to harmonize their building codes with national model codes, but varied adoption approaches include varied regulatory and jurisdictional realities for municipalities across the country. So all within this context, local governments are adopting a variety of approaches for building energy performance frameworks. So the aim of the BNZ project is really to have the flexibility to support these diverse regional realities across the country along their journey. So lastly, while developing building energy performance frameworks really presents a challenge for any municipality, we know that small to mid-sized municipalities face heightened barriers. So I should say that this isn't an exhaustive list, but we know that some of these challenges include limited staff and resource capacity, and certainly this is a barrier that underscores all others. Challenges engaging with private sector, community, and internal stakeholders. Uncertainty related to direct and indirect financial implications of adoption, lack of relevant data, and that includes best practices and data that's really specifically suited for small to mid-sized municipalities, implementation challenges, and this might include enforcement frameworks and other harmonization with provincial guidelines and regional guidelines as well, and also a lack of support from federal and provincial governments. So to address these challenges, the Building to Net Zero, or BNZ project, is funded by Natural Resource Canada's Code Acceleration Fund. So it's a 4-year training and capacity building project designed to support small and mid-sized municipalities in adoption of building energy performance frameworks. So through the BNZ project, municipalities, community partners, and industry experts will work collaboratively to identify and overcome municipalities' unique adoption challenges, outlining a clear pathway towards net zero building energy. So for the project, there's really 2 main components. So the first is the BNZ cohort, and that's why we're all here today. So this is a training and capacity building program designed to support 12 to 15 small to mid-sized municipalities adopt building energy performance frameworks. So through the cohort, municipalities will work together with ICLEI Canada staff to co-develop tailored resources and support based on their unique challenges. Secondly, the BNZ Community of Practice, or COP. So while cohort members work towards roadmap development and implementation, a Canada-wide BNZ COP will be established to support the broader adoption across the country. So the COP will include cohort members, many other municipalities as well, subject matter experts, industry leaders, and other professionals working in the net zero building space. So essentially, this will be a space for broader knowledge mobilization, for resource sharing, and networking with a national audience. So lastly, before I hand things over to Adler, we have included a timeline here of the full BNZ project. So first, you'll see here at the top, recruitment and selection of cohort members will run from May to August of this year. So applications opened last week and will remain open until June 7th. And applicants will find out whether they've been selected as cohort members by mid-August. So once cohort members have been selected, they'll participate in a needs assessment process and roadmap development, and you'll hear more from Adler about the details of that soon. So this will occur over the first year from September 24 to September 2025. Following roadmap development and for the remainder of the BNZ project, ICLEI staff will provide continued support for roadmap implementation. So this will be from September 2025 to January 2027. And then lastly, the community of practice will coincide with cohort activities running from September 2025 to January 2027. And I'll hand things over to you, Adler.
Great, thanks, Susan. And yeah, really nice to be here, everyone, and to share this really exciting project with you. So I'm just going to start by taking you through what the BNZ cohort portion of the project will be. So you can go to the next slide, please. So why join this cohort in the first place? So really the core of this of the cohort will be the development of a building energy performance roadmap. that will seek to outline and kind of clarify a pathway for adoption and kind of ratcheting up of the building energy performance for new builds. And it can be for existing buildings as well, but we can get to that later. Ratcheting up towards net zero by 2030, which is in alignment with the National Model Code. So in support of that, you'll be receiving tailored resources based on the needs assessment that's completed in the first portion of the project. And ICLEI will work very closely with you to develop those resources that are specific to your unique context and challenges, and co-develop the roadmap with you. So you'll have access to experts and best practices in the field through ICLEI, and we'll look to connect you with those subject matter experts that you require. And you'll receive one-on-one support from us, and with working closely with your staff to develop the roadmap. Lastly, being part of this cohort will help to position you as a leader in the building energy performance space, and give you an opportunity to share your lessons and experiences with a wider national audience in the community of practice, as well as through conferences and other meetings that we'll attend as part of this project. So the types of supports that we've kind of envisioned that you'll receive. First of all, we designed the program to be very flexible. So none of this is really set in stone, but what we're kind of looking at is, as part of the roadmap development process, what are the enabling policies and bylaws that need to be put into place, long-term plans, whether that's going to be what type of incentives or how the actual policy will be designed. It will also depend on what jurisdiction you're in. But for example, in Ontario, green development standards would be the way to go. In other jurisdictions, you might have to look at other types of voluntary or incentive-based policies. A big part of this program is going to be stakeholder engagement and education and awareness. So we'll be looking to provide supports for that. And we plan to provide to facilitate at least one community and industry stakeholder engagement with each municipality in the cohort. Other supports and resources will include like workshops, training workshops, consultations, design charrettes with expert consultants, as well as hiring for technical studies, feasibility or costing, and looking at enforcement frameworks as well. And a big part of this will also be looking at how we can harmonize these standards with regional within your region, so as to not make a patchwork of enforcement or in frameworks that is difficult for developers to comply with. And of course, there's more, lots of area to expand on this depending on the needs of the cohort members, which we'll explore with you. And lastly, all cohort members will have access to all the resources developed for one another, and most of these will be provided through the community of practice as well in one form or another. All the lessons and learnings will be disseminated through that as well. And the kind of at the core of this that we're conducting right now is a jurisdictional scan of all the different kinds of policies, databases, and tools that already exist out there, and that will be provided like a database of all those actions and tools will be provided to you as well. Next slide, please. So we have established an advisory committee to kind of support and guide the overall direction of the project. The advisory committee is intended to, well, it consists of subject area experts and leaders, whether private sector and public sector. There's a lot of municipalities in there as well. They've already begun this work. They'll be able to provide advice to you throughout the project. And the main role of the committee will be provide guidance and insights, feedback, and to ensure that the projects remain connected to ongoing market and industry developments and best practices, and make sure they're kind of ground truthed in reality. So we can go to the next slide. I believe there is a overview of all of the members of the advisory committee. So this is actually an evolving list. So we're looking to add a few more organizations and municipalities to this to have a better representation across Canada. But we feel this is a really great cross-section, kind of a super team we've assembled to help advance implementation of this, representing a wide diversity of needs and perspectives. So what is in terms of what's expected from the cohort members themselves? There will need to be a primary staff liaison designated for the duration of the cohort. So this is a 4-year project, and it's quite a long time to be committed to something. But of course, expecting things will change. So if a different person can be designated if things change in that time. We ask that you actively participate in one national cohort meeting per year, where we'll kind of convene everyone in person and be able to share experiences and network that way. There will be active participation in regular meetings with ICLEI staff as part of the needs assessment process, and kind of just regular check-in meetings throughout the project to make sure things are progressing as we need to. We're looking to have strong collaboration with ICLEI Canada staff to co-develop the tailored building energy performance roadmaps. And this will include, as I mentioned before, though, at least one ICLEI facilitated stakeholder consultation or workshop with your local stakeholders. We'll be asking you to share your experiences and lessons learned during the year-end review and reflections, as well as at any of the opportunities we have to present at conferences and come together at those type of events. The expected minimum time commitment is we're expecting about 12 days over the first year, with the subsequent year time commitments will be determined based on emergent needs and how things evolve. So the primary language for the cohort, as we mentioned before, is English. And there'll also be like for those that are selected, there'll be a signed partnership agreement that will kind of confirm your agreement to all the conditions we've listed here. Yeah, sorry, next slide, thanks. So now the application process itself. So it's going to take you through kind of what we're looking for when you're submitting your application, and what the kind of review and selection process will be. Next slide. So all the project materials are on the website. There we have the project brochure, which takes you through all the background, context, and work plan and everything. We have the FAQ attached on that as well. And then there's an application form that you'll need to fill out and email to Susan. The due date being 11:59 p.m. on June 7th. So we have about a month to kind of work on the applications. In terms of the evaluation criteria we're looking at, of course, we'll be first reviewing for administrative completeness and doing a pre-screening there. And then we'll be doing our own scoring according to this rubric we have here. And then we'll also be bringing in the advisory committee for their feedback and to provide their evaluation as well. So primarily what we're looking for is, aside from just a well-written application, we're looking for to demonstrate a high level of need for the supports that we're offering in this project, as well as be able to demonstrate the capacity to follow through with the project over the 4-year period. So each of the scorings here just kind of reflects a different level of these criteria we're looking for. Any types of letters of support or specific examples or details that you can provide will always help the application. Having others be able to support what you're saying and demonstrate the need and the commitment to the project was really good to see, as always. And of course, another thing we'll take into consideration is that we have a good representation of participants across Canada as well. So we don't necessarily want to have everyone in one province. So that may come into, depending on the types of applications and where we get the applications from, that will kind of come into consideration as well. Next slide, please. So when the cohort selection process will have to receive the applications in June, there's going to be about a 2-month period. So just to make sure we have allow the advisory committee enough time to review the applications and give us enough time to review as well. If you are not selected for the cohort, there's going to be lots of opportunities to still participate in the project, primarily through the community of practice, which will include trainings and workshops and peer-to-peer networking activities, and access to some of the resources we develop with the cohort municipalities as well. So hopefully there'll be something there for everyone. Next slide. Yeah, that brings us to the Q&A section. I'm sure there's probably a lot of questions and clarifications you'd like to see. So let me know if there's anything that I can clarify or help you out with.
Yeah, so we'll start off with just a couple questions that have popped up in the chat. So we did have a question of, can we get copies of the slides? And yes, absolutely. So we will be sending a follow-up email following the webinar, and that will include the slides and a recording of this session as well. And then heading into the Q&A. So the first question we have is, what do you consider a small or mid-sized municipality? And this is a great question. I will say that we've decided to leave this somewhat flexible. We had considered having a firm cutoff, but we didn't want anybody to be cut out just based on a small amount. So we're really trying not to include the largest city centers, but leave it open for others. I don't know if Adler, you had anything to add to that, or?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just wanted to be a little more flexible and not exclude anyone that might just be right above that population cutoff. So be kind of taking that into account into the selection process in terms of the range of city sizes we receive applications from.
Yeah. So we have another question here. Is the cohort available for upper tier municipalities? And if so, do all local municipalities need to be on board for implementation of what comes out of the roadmap?
Yeah, that's a great question. We'd be welcome to receive applications from upper tier municipalities. Depending on what jurisdiction you're in, I think the kind of power to implement these is going to be a little bit different. And certainly having local municipalities on board would be of benefit. I think would strengthen the application, but wouldn't be necessary. It might be, that could be part of the developing the roadmap, is doing the stakeholder consultations with the local municipalities and the education awareness to bring them on board to actually do this. So that could definitely be one of the project goals, to kind of create a harmonized approach across the whole region.
So we have a great question as well. How is systems thinking integrated into the project? I think this will give us something to think about, because it's such an important question. I would say one way is the experts that we have, this super team that we have involved in the advisory committee will keep us in check in this regard. Adler, I don't know if you have any more specific details to add.
No, not at the moment. I mean, that would be definitely something we can go back and consider how we want to. Would be open to your thoughts as well on how you think system thinking should be integrated in this project. I think at the building level, you can think of the building as a system, and that for sure will come up into the design of the the actual design of the performance frameworks. We'll have to be thinking about that. But system thinking is quite a broad field, so we'll be open to any more clarification you have on that.
So we have a few questions here about green development standards. First, are municipalities that already have green development standards eligible? And if a municipality has a green development standard with energy targets in place, are we too far along to participate in the cohort? So I would say that the project is really designed for a lot of flexibility. So we're aiming to meet people where they are, and have the flexibility to meet people at any stage where they are, including green development standards as well. Adler, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, just that, we're open to having those that have already begun work on this. We recognize that there are still, many challenges and room for improvement, and it would probably be of benefit to the wider cohort as well to have those municipalities participate to share their learnings from their initial work.
And next up, when you say municipalities, are you expecting municipalities to bring in other partners such as industry research organizations? We will have these types of partners involved in the advisory committee for sure. And I think that's primarily where we'll be bringing in those types of experts is through their recommendation and them themselves. So we wouldn't be expecting cohort members to bring in those types of partners. Adler, again, if you'd like to add anything more to that.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. All right. And have you considered using an existing model code like the IECC as a base? Adler,
Because it's a kind of a NRCan codes acceleration, it's meant to facilitate adoption of the national model code. So we'll primarily be using that as our base code. But there's room to integrate other things in there as well, and explore other options as again, very flexible approach here.
And so we do have some more questions that are popping up in the chat outside of the Q&A. So we have here, is this just for municipalities that are looking to implement code standards, or also for those who have already started but might need help moving forward? And again, I'd say this would be that we're trying to be flexible to meet people where they're at with that. So we wouldn't be limiting to those who are just looking to implement codes and standards. So we also have quick clarification. The cohort includes municipalities who have some work around building efficiency, or it could be anyone willing to participate and meet your criteria. Adler, would you have anything to add to that one?
Ideally, there would be some kind of initial groundwork or kind of inclination to begin this work, and that comes into part of the application we're looking for is being able to demonstrate that you have commitment to this. So that's not to say that someone that doesn't have any kind of initial work on this wouldn't be accepted into the program, but we need you to demonstrate that you have a kind of starting to move in this direction anyways, or have this as an objective at least somewhere in your plans or policies.
Great. So a couple more questions out there. I'm going to direct at you. Is it expected that the end result of the roadmap is creating a code or standard for the municipality, or can the end result of the roadmap solely be to raise awareness?
I think we're ideally looking for for you to actually create some kind of framework that's going to incentivize adoption. I think the education awareness will be part of that, but it's not the end. It's not the primary end goal.
Yeah, and certainly an important part of it as well. And I'd say on the advisory committee, we have people who have expertise in that area as well. So there'd be a lot of supports in that area for sure. Another question, Adler, I'll aim to you is, will provinces and territories be engaged as part of the project? We are unable to adopt more stringent energy codes or tiers of codes than what has been adopted by the province, and in brackets, it's New Brunswick.
Yeah, for sure. That can definitely be part of the stakeholder engagement is facilitating those discussions with province and territory. I think that, it would be very interesting discussions to be had there.
And another question here is, would it be possible to submit a joint application with other municipalities in the surrounding areas?
Yeah, I think that would make for a strong application as well, because that really leans into that need for harmonization, and you would be able to kind of share your capacities and workload that way. So if you would be assuming that the same standard would be applied across all the same municipalities, I think that could be a very interesting way to approach it.
And I think another question here, will you be addressing only new buildings or existing buildings as well?
So the kind of it tends to be kind of focused more on new buildings, but we are open to exploring existing buildings as well, because in the National Model Code, the 2025 cycle, they are looking at creating codes for alterations to existing buildings. So if that's an area you're interested in, we'd be happy to work with you on that as well. And kind of preparing for those alterations to existing buildings code that's coming up.
And another question is, will subject matter experts from other countries are going to be considered as well? I'd say on our advisory committee currently, everyone is within Canada to keep it focused on the Canadian context, but you know, there's certainly lots we can learn from other countries as well. So I think that would be open to consideration for sure. If there's anything else you'd like to add in that regard, Adler?
No, I think mainly just, yeah, we'll kind of assess as we need. If there is a need to bring in experts from other countries, we're happy to do that, and also lean a bit on the advisory committee to connect us to those experts as well.
And the last question I'm seeing here is, how is ICLEI funded? So this particular project is funded through Natural Resource Canada Code Acceleration Fund. I don't know if Adler, you wanted to speak to broader funding.
I mean, yeah, we have numerous funding sources. We write proposals and receive funding from the government to do those proposals, and we're also a member-based organization.
And could you share your emails with us for further engagement? Yes, absolutely. So we will be following up with an email following the webinar. I'll include the slides in that and recordings of the website, and we definitely encourage you to reach out if you have any questions. We'd be happy to follow up further. And another question I'm seeing here, are you coordinating with others working on green development standard coordination, such as CAP in Ontario?
Yeah, we're definitely in contact with the other organizations, and we'll hope to work with them in whatever way we can. Yeah, and especially with the community of practice as well. You know, recognizing that there are already existing groups out there working on this, so not looking to repeat any work, wanting to really build off of and fill any gaps there, and you know, not do something that's already being done, not try to reinvent the wheel here.
All right, well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. I'll give everyone a moment if any burning thoughts come to mind. All right. So here's my email here, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to read out. I'm just got another question in the chat though. Is it okay if we partner with the municipality, not in our immediate vicinity rather, so a few hundred kilometers away?
No, I don't see any issue with that.
Great. All right. Are you open to working with others working on NBC Tier 4-5 adoption space, already holding CAF or TNZ funding?
Yeah, I think we're open to working with you, but if you already have funding, we wouldn't likely accept that into this program if you're already being funded from CAF or other sources. This is meant to be to reach those municipalities that do not already have funding. But yeah, for sure would love to share our experiences and any you know, any resources or anything that we can share. Definitely just looking to collaborate and advance this in the best way we can.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions coming in, I don't want to close things too early if there's still remaining questions, but well, thank you very much again for taking the time today. We hope that this assists you with your application process. And if you have anything further, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to hear from you more.